Ever wondered what would happen if you bobbinated your DMC embroidery floss on the cheapest bobbins you could find at the craft store and then left them in your sewing room for 20 years? I'm Michelle, this is my romantic tangle, and I pulled out one of my oldest abandoned UFOs so I could show you what actually does happen if you do that. I packed this project away almost 20 years ago, and it has not been stored under conditions that I would ever recommend. When I put it up, I thought I was done with cross-stitching for good. So the pattern and the fabric and the box of floss went into one of those jumbo Ziploc bags. It went into a cardboard box from the liquor store with the rest of my stitching. And it went into my sewing room where it sat for more than a decade. No climate control, no air conditioning, no heating. It got cold in the winter. It got hot in the summer. I am in the Pacific Northwest, so I don't have the extremes of temperature that some of you have, but this is badly stored floss. I got the idea this afternoon that I would open it up and see how it has done. Now, spoiler, I know that it's done fine because I have been using floss from the sewing room ever since I started the Flosstube channel. I have not run into any problems. But this is my illustration to you that leaving things on bobbins for 20 years, while it might not be the best thing you can do with it, it's not the end of the world. Straight off the bobbin, there are some kinks, but they're not nearly as bad as other people's posts would have led me to expect. I've been stitching with this strand for a while, maybe a dozen stitches, and there really aren't any kinks. They've all loosened up. My stitches look fine. More time spent stitching, and I haven't run into any unexpected problems. The kinks smooth out without moistening the floss or doing anything extraordinary. My floss is not knotting as I stitch. It is all fine. I wouldn't recommend that you store your projects someplace that isn't temperature controlled, but if you're wondering whether or not it's okay to use that old floss that you bought years ago, go for it. At least give it a try before you decide it is too old to stitch with. Same goes for if you're working with your mom's or your grandma's or your great aunt's floss. I'm a little more cautious buying old floss from estate sales or thrift stores. But if it's something you already own, go ahead and use it. And if you wonder how I know how long this has been packed away, I know I packed this project away before I was pregnant with my 18-year-old. I know at what point I brought it down from the sewing room into the house, and then it sat in here for quite a few years before I actually pulled out the project this afternoon and decided this is something I want to finish. And yes, all of these colors are for this one project, which is why I bobbinate my floss in the first place. It's all in numerical order, and I can, in theory, find exactly what I need when I need it, except for this bobbins that I borrowed for other projects because I was out of that color. I've got another video about why I keep a full set of DMC floss. I've got a video about tips of confetti stitching. If you haven't watched that, I'll link to those both here. Let me know, if you bobbinate your floss, what has your experience been? Is it similar to my own? Thanks for watching. I'm Michelle. This is my romantic tangle, and I'll be back with you again soon.